Welcome to the Guns and Noses podcast. My name's Helen Taylor and I am the owner of Guns and Noses, and I own 3 Labradors. We're here to talk about real moments, real lives, and the wins, the wobblers, and the occasional up yours moments. We're talking about those dogs with enthusiasm and us humans who are trying to keep up. So why don't you sit back, grab a brew, slow down, and listen in. Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Guns and Noses podcast. You're here with me, Helen Taylor, and my 3 Labradors, Red, Jack and Sky. And today I really want to talk about the opening moments of a training session. Now, over the past few weeks, I've spoken about observation. And observation is really critical to knowing what your dog is doing in a particular place or for a particular reason. But we're going to now tie that in to actually starting training, because let's face it, that's why you're all here. You want to hear about training tips. You want to hear about how to do certain things. You want conversations regarding how to get your dog to behave better. And one of the things that I do in every single class is I talk to my clients about the warm-up. So for the first 5 minutes, I get the clients to warm their dogs up. And this can be absolutely anything. But the criteria and the absolute must is that it must be something that both ends of the lead enjoy. So why is the warm-up so important? Well, I want you to imagine that you've turned up at a training class and your dog absolutely loves going. They get really excited. They know they're going to see the trainer. So a lot of dogs get excited when they see me because I may spend time handling them and showing their owners, should I say, what it is that we want them to do. So the dogs might get really super excited when they get to a training class. And they're not in concentration mode. They haven't got their brains warmed up. Their brains and their bodies aren't connected. We then might expect them to learn something new, and that something new might be quite difficult. So it might be quite technically difficult. If we haven't given our dogs a chance to regulate, to calm down, to realise who their handler is and what it is that is expected of them, what can happen is that the behaviour that we would like to teach them, there's something new, is actually very difficult for the handler to teach because the dog is not in learning mode. And that's what's really important here. We want to get the dog into learning mode. We don't want to start teaching them while they are dysregulated, not concentrated, scanning the environment for more fun things to get up to. So making sure that the dog is actually hooked into the handler is so important. Now, there's a few exercises that I really love teaching for this particular moment in the training class. And usually what we're looking at is exercises where the dog really has to pay attention. So it might be something simple like a hand touch. Now, earlier on, I mentioned things like spins and twists, but the hand touch is a really simple, easy exercise to teach our dogs. And the nice thing about it is, when we ask for a hand touch, we're actually asking our dog to turn away from what it is that they might find exciting or interesting. So imagine you're in a field, you're going to do some training and a deer pops up or a pheasant pops up. Asking for a simple hand touch to get them to focus on you can be a really super simple way of regaining attention. Something else that I love to teach is the middle. That's where the dog comes and stands between the handler's legs. And it can be really powerful for multiple other reasons other than a warm-up, mainly recall, A lot of agility people use the middle for lining their dogs up, ready to go over a jump when they get started. We might even look at things like little tiny recalls. So, like the end of the lead tiny recalls, because again, it's movement. What you have to understand about the warm up is, what does your dog love and what do you love? Do you love static exercises or do you love movement exercises? Both of them have a place in the warm up, but knowing your dog and knowing what they really, really love doing will be the difference between connection and disconnection. Now, there's a dog I've been working with for quite some time now, and the reason I've been working with this dog for quite some time is because her handler is absolutely committed to a better life with her dog. And she trains with me about twice a week because she absolutely loves training with a dog and loves learning and doing the sessions. But if I take you back about a year when this lady first started, her dog would run around the field, she would bunk off at any given opportunity, she would be so distracted by everything around her, and everything in the environment was way more important than her handler. And we spoke about the warm up in quite a lot of detail in the early days. And what was really interesting was this lady, this particular lady, this particular client of mine, once forgot to warm up during classes. I think she'd arrived late or something like that. And warm up didn't happen. We got straight into the exercise. And really interestingly, she observed that about half an hour in, she said, I can totally tell that I haven't warmed my dog up because she's been particularly distracted today and it's the only thing that's different. So I was like, okay, that's really interesting. Anyway, moving forward and moving on with this dog, she never skipped a warm up 5 minutes again. And the difference between that dog warming up and being able to concentrate for the rest of the lesson and not warming up was phenomenal. And these are the things that observations teach us, and knowing what it is that your dog needs to be able to focus and concentrate during that training session is so powerful and so enlightening that actually you feel more confident, you feel more inspired to train with your dog because you're getting the right kinds of things from your dog, and the communication back and forth is just, it's seamless, it's fluid, it just works. So when you wonder about whether you should warm your dog up if you've got time, and mind you, if you don't have time to warm your dog up, then I would say the only thing that you should be doing in a training session is warming your dog up. It can be so powerful for your connection and for your training moving forward and for the education of the dog. At this point, I want to ask you a question. Do you ever find yourself saying, but they know this at home, or they're just being stubborn, or they're always a bit naughty at the beginning? If you find yourself saying any of those statements, what I want you to do is think to yourself, have I warmed the engine up? Remember, we're dealing with Ferrari dogs here. We're dealing with dogs with a lot of drive, a lot of enthusiasm, dogs who think more in the future than they do in the present. So if you ever find yourself saying any of those three statements, I want you to reflect. Do you take time to warm your dog up? Do you take time to create connection? Or do you just expect your dog to enter into a training session with absolutely no warm up whatsoever and to be able to perform? So if you do, what I'd like you to do going forward is before you take your dog out to do some training or to go on a walk, is just spend 5 minutes with them on the lead doing some simple exercises that both ends of the lead enjoy. And that is the point. You both have to enjoy it. So if you have a dog that's really enthusiastic and you put their lead on and they get really excited, they drag you out the door, they drag you out the garden gate, and you hit the street and they just power walk around the street with you at the end of the lead, holding on for grim death. Then why don't you just try 5 minutes at the beginning, asking them to do something, asking them to connect with you, and see if it makes a difference on your walks. But if you are really struggling with lead walking, I will be bringing more tips to you. But in the meantime, you could head over to my website and I'll put the link in the description. I've just launched a new ebook called Manners Beyond the Gate, Field Proof Lead Walking. And that should be able to help you out and give you some ideas and some ways that you can reconnect with your dog. But also, if you'd like any other tips, please do join me on Facebook at Guns and Noses. You can find me on Instagram and you can listen to some of the other podcasts as well. But in the meantime, if you've found this podcast useful, why don't you share it with a fellow dog owner or with somebody who really needs this help, because that will help to spread my message and get more people listening to my podcast. And it might also help some people who really need that help. But until the next time, keep training kindly and please do try and keep up.
Thank you for spending this time with me. If today's episode helped you slow down, feel seen, or think a little differently about your dog, then it's done its job. Remember, progress isn't about perfection, it's about observation and reflection. You're not behind, you're not failing, and you're definitely not alone. Until next time, keep training kindly and try to keep up.